All right. Well, thanks for sticking with us today on Gadgets for Families, the tech show with the tech grandpas. And now I've got myself listed as Grumpy Old Greg. If you could see our video recording stuff, I'm listed as Grumpy Old Greg, and Jay is listed as G for FJ. But I have a feeling that the Grumpy title applies to Jason. So yesterday, Jason sends me a text and says, I'm here killing three birds with one stone.
Yeah.
I'm here to trade in my iPad, get the microphone on my Apple Watch fixed, which has been an issue for months now.
Yeah.
And they said they had an opening for a Vision OS demo, which I told him to let me know how that goes, especially if his bank account or credit card were impacted. And
Right.
so I was expecting to hear. He did tell me how the iPad exchange went, so he can share that. But I was expecting to hear something, and I heard nothing last night. And I
Yeah.
woke up this morning, and it said there were some changes in our show outline. And I thought, okay, maybe he put some surprise topics in there, but there was nothing. So didn't
Yeah.
go well, did it?
It didn't. It did. So this frustration starts back in last October, right? So before I go on my rant, this is not necessarily a critique of the actual AppleCare program, right? Because we mentioned several times, and you mentioned when we talked about our tech setups and the devices that we love, that you don't put AppleCare on everything, right? You're pretty selective about what you put AppleCare on because some devices just have low risk of being damaged and things like that. And also, you would eat the cost if it did get damaged to replace it and stuff. So I think this is just part of um, my understanding on how AppleCare should work versus how it used to work back, when we used AppleCare a lot for executive devices and equipment and stuff for the company and all of that. So a lot has changed, but my mindset was always keep AppleCare on your phone, right? Keep AppleCare on. Well, I didn't get it on my iPad, but keep AppleCare on the smaller things that have the most risk of getting damaged, right? The watch, because the replacement cost was what, $500 or something like that.
Right.
Um, Plus, we're always active with it. We're always out, and the phones, right? It's the main thing. Your phone is always at risk of being damaged. So going back to last October, pay for AppleCare for 2 years for my wife's 13. Received some scratches and some stuff on it, but no major damage, right? The screen has some pretty deep gashes in it, but no major damage. The battery life was still 80+%, and um, I'm like telling my wife, she's like, "Hey, it gets really hot when I'm charging it, and the scratches and stuff like that." Um, I'm like, okay, hey, I pay for the Apple Care. We're just going to do a replacement for it. You know what I mean? And maybe the new phone won't have those issues that you have. And plus, the screen would be, in decent condition. Scratches on the side and stuff too, but she kept a case. So we get there, and the guy gives us this whole rambling explanation that Apple's green or green, their whole carbon neutral thing or whatever doesn't allow them to just replace phones willy nilly. It
Cosmetic
was
damage.
Yeah, cosmetic damage, which was always part of AppleCare, from what I remember. You have a problem with it. So he mentioned he was a cool guy. I don't know if he should have mentioned this or not. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. He kind of mentioned like, "Hey, I had a few customers took us walk to the restroom real quick and came back with their phone smashed up, and I was able to replace it." I couldn't bring myself to do that.
No,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It just didn't sound like the right way to do it. I'm telling you, I paid you for AppleCare for the past 2 years. I want a new device. That should be the thing. Now I know some people would take advantage of that and kind of abuse the system or whatever. They're getting ready to resell a device or whatever. Let me go ahead and just swap it out to get one that's spotless and pristine. Fine, I get that. Maybe put some restrictions on that. But we're obviously having a problem with battery life and the issue or whatever. So why not eliminate both issues and just replace the phone for me? You have a
Now,
stack of them in the back.
old school Apple,
Hmm.
like back when I was living in Houston,
Right.
probably would have done it.
Right.
Right. Less focus on some of the environmental stuff, which I agree with. I understand why they don't want to just swap this stuff willy nilly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I went in with no AppleCare and water damage, and they still had some flexibility to be able to make a
Right.
change, right? So I think old school Apple would have said, yeah, it's not exactly in our guidelines, but you have enough here that I can justify it.
Right. Right. So that was the one issue, and I left pretty mad the store that day. Also, too, she has the same issue with you with her AirPods. They wouldn't replace the AirPods, right? The guy was just like, "Oh, it's just dirt down in the thing. Just clean it out or whatever." No, that's not the issue. It was she would throw them in the case, and only one would charge. The other one wouldn't charge unless you kind of jiggle it around and do all of that. Not how the device should function. They shouldn't tell you, "Oh, just go home and just do
Yeah.
it, and it'll work." No,
Does she have AppleCare on those?
no. It was just
Oh, yeah,
whatever
yeah.
warranty was left. So
Okay.
no
All right.
AppleCare on that. So we fast forward to yesterday, and again, I've been dealing with that problem with the mic for months now. Because I always thought that, hey, as soon as I get an opportunity to go into the Apple Store, I hate going to the mall, by the way, and you're the same way. It's
Yep.
just crazy. The Apple Store is the hangout spot for teenagers and loud people and just crowds of people that they just, and that's what Apple wants.
And just remember, Jason, I have to drive an hour and a half with traffic and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff to get to one. You're like what, 20 minutes from
Yeah.
the
Yeah, yeah,
one
not even
there?
that. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like a 15, 10, 15 minute drive. It's right
Yeah.
down the road from me. So I get there. She's like, "Oh, I checked you in. Go sit on that side of the table, so the tech will be able to identify you." There's no seats down there. There's no. I'm standing in the back corner by the thing. But yeah, I did take in the watch months ago because I figured it was going to be something quick and easy, right? The trade-in rep was with one of their regular sales rep, not the Genius Bar. He found me easy. That process was maybe 4 minutes.
Yeah. This is
Amazing.
for your iPad, right?
Yeah, this is for the iPad. Amazing. This is why I say Apple does some things like perfectly. No headache at all. He grabbed the iPad, he inspected it, took it with him, came back and said, "I got to get the approval." Came back, "This is the amount you're getting." Boom, boom, boom. Sign this. They did it all on their little customized iPhone that they carry. Um, yeah, maybe 4 minutes. So I stood there maybe another 10, 15 minutes waiting for my Genius Bar appointment, and the lady's going around. "Are you Jason? Are you Jason?" I'm standing close to the area where she told me to be, but again, there was no seat in there because it's basically a bar slash grill slash hangout spot. And when I say bar slash grill, there was actually a family sitting at the other Genius Bar table eating Chick-fil-A. The kids, the mom, the dad, all of them. So Apple, it is the spot. It is
Right.
the place to hang out. So she found me. We go and we sit down, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm having problems with my microphone. Um, none of the um, dictations that I do, Siri commands, when I'm speakerphoning somebody, I hear them fine, but I'm not." And she's like, "Okay, did you do the reset?" Yeah, of course I did the reset. "Did you unpair it and pair it back?" Yeah, of course. Remember the show at IT
Mm.
Crowd where you answer the phone? Did you restart and did you power it off and power it back on? She did that. And I said, "Oh, yeah, of course I did that." "Okay, go ahead and take your watch off. We have to send it in." I'm like, What do you mean?" She's like, "We don't handle audio issues with the Apple Watch in house. We have to send that off to a company." And I'm like, "Wait, I didn't read anything like that and maybe it's just maybe I missed it. I'm sure it says it somewhere,
And
but
you
I didn't
have
know that.
AppleCare Plus on this?
I have Apple Care Plus, so I'm telling the lady like, "Okay, just give me another one. I'm fine with that. As long as you see mine is in pristine condition, as long as it doesn't have any gashes or any, major dents on it, I'm okay if you just swap it out." She's like, "We can't do that. We we have to determine what's wrong with this one before we swap it out." And I'm like, "Wait, what about like getting an express replacement or something?" She's like, "Oh no, we don't do that in store. you have to do that online with support, meaning you have to go home, call them, get them to send you one out. Now they'll send you one. Oh, because my first thing was like, well, are you going to give me a loaner watch or something? Because again, look at my wrist. Like I wear my watch. Like this is my actual color right here. And I work in the sun. Like I don't take my watch off. She's like, no, we don't do loaner watches or whatever, which makes sense. I was a shot in the dark. I knew that she wasn't going to do that, but I'm at this point. I'm really frustrated because I'm like, I'm not cursing or yelling at the lady, but I'm serious. Like I can go to Best Buy and be treated like crap. I paid you guys so I didn't have to deal with this. I paid you guys the AppleCare. I mean, and look at it. And I'm showing her my phone. I'm like, out of all the time I had this phone, I just have this one little gas here at the top. I don't even have a case on this, man. Look at it. I take care of all of my stuff. I'm like, I just traded an iPad to you guys that was spotless. I got the maximum amount of the trade in. You guys are gonna wipe it off and sell it refurbished for $100 less than the retail price. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what is going on? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I just, it's out of my control. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? She's right. She doesn't make the policies or whatever. But I'm so frustrated with Apple because, I'm not that I want any kind of special treatment, but I shouldn't have to wait for them to ship it to this place 3 days, 3 to 5 days, them to check what's wrong with it, another 3 to 5 days, only to come back and say the microphone is faulty. Go ahead and send this guy another one, and then wait another. I don't know how long it's going to be. Maybe a week, week and a half. That's not AppleCare. That's
No.
Apple. That's regular insurance. You know what I mean? Don't call it AppleCare if you don't care. You know, just call it
Yeah.
Apple coverage. Just call it warranty coverage. Don't give me some fancy name AppleCare. And how much was AppleCare on the? It was about 250, I think.
I don't
Or it's
think it
two
was that.
fifty with the
So
lofts, the theft in the
mine's
lofts. I think it
so
was 199.
I pay weekly, or not
Okay,
weekly. I pay monthly on mine. It's $4.99 a month. So
right,
I don't think it was
right.
that much. I think you were looking at more like 129 bucks, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It was somewhere around that. But I mean, you think you're paying for the convenience up front, right? And again, don't get me started on the phone because the Apple I remember, I paid for Apple Care Plus on the phone. Yes, I only have that little gash, but I still under the impression that I can say, hey, give me a new phone without the gash on the top, right? Everywhere else is it's stroll to the bathroom and smash the screen trick just to get them to
Yeah.
replace the phone. And I'm not willing to do that. You know how much I love these devices, so
Yeah. No,
I just
I
don't feel right breaking it on purpose. But yeah, just really frustrating with Apple. Some things go so smoothly, like the trade in, to me being without my watch for a week and a half or 2 weeks or whatever. I just don't think that that's Apple caring. I think that
yeah.
that's just regular manufacturer coverage, right? If anything else goes wrong, this microphone, uh, one of the TVs or something, that's the process that I would go through with LG or a regular Best Buy purchase. That's not the process I expected through Apple. And again, maybe I missed that in the fine print. Maybe I should have read it. But if you have any problems with your microphone or speaker, they're not going to help you in the store with your Apple
No,
Watch.
I don't think it's just that. So I think it's unfortunately, I think it's the fact that you went to a store because,
Yeah.
I don't go to stores
Yeah.
and I've had
You always
issues
do
with
the
stuff.
express replacement.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just tell them, like, so a couple of stories. Wyatt was having issues with his headphones.
Hmm.
I showed him how to get on chat through iMessage with them. So he does that. And then they said, we actually want to call you. So fine. So he calls them and he's like, I'm having this problem with this earbud on my Beats and I want to do an express replacement. And they said, oh, okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a hold on your card and we'll send you the new one and you send the old one in. And so he got done in like 2 minutes. And I said, did they even verify that you really had Apple Care Plus, or did they get the serial number from you? He's like, nope.
Yeah.
So they just took his word and did it, which is great. So it was super, super smooth. And I've learned to do chat during a weekday, not after hours, not on the weekends, because I always get somebody that says, no, we can't do that. You've got to take, I get the story that you got, which is you've got to take it in somewhere so that they can figure out what's wrong
Yeah.
first. And so then I just do it during the day. And so there is the cosmetic damage is not covered. I mean, I know a podcaster that was having that problem with his phone where it had some cosmetic damage and they wouldn't cover it. And they
Hmm.
basically said if it's shattered and doesn't function, we'll swap it. Right. I mean, they're basically telling people to go do that, which is a bad idea. But
Yeah.
that's why I struggled with getting AppleCare on my watch because I never get actual destroyed damage. I mean, you know how well I take care of my stuff. We both do, right? So I
Right.
just don't get that kind of stuff. So that's why I struggle with Apple Care on some things. But I told you a few years ago I had water damage. They still swapped it. That was a long time ago. I was early in when I was in Houston. But
Hmm.
a few years ago, Dustin, we were on the way to the airport and Dustin was having a problem with his phone and there was a new phone out. It was probably time for him to upgrade anyway. We had Apple Care Plus on it. He was having some issues with it, but I think it was his own fault. So it was some damage that he did to it. It still worked, but not great, right?
Yeah.
So we stop at the Apple store on the way to the airport and said, "Hey, here's the problem. What can you do for us?"
Hmm.
And they basically said, well, look, if you're willing to pay the $99, which was the deductible,
Yeah.
right, for accidental damage, if you're willing to pay the $99, we'll take it at full trade-in value
Okay.
and towards his new phone. And less than 30 minutes later, we were back on our way to the airport for him to get on an airplane with a brand new, fully functioning, latest model
Yeah.
iPhone, right? And that is the old Apple that I think we're used to, especially when we pay the premium for the AppleCare Plus. That's what I think we're expecting, and I just don't think they're they're too big. They're too much into some of this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing with the environmental stuff, but they're using that too much as a crutch. They're too big. They're too far away from that old Steve Jobs. This is what I want the retail stores mentality to be like to have the flexibility to do some of that stuff. The Vision OS, the light seal, the sizing on the light seals is a mess right now
Hmm.
because nobody knows how to really help you fit those light seals. They aren't trained to say, well, let's try 5 different sizes and pick the one. And a lot of people are coming out with this one size being the best one, and so they're really hard to find. And so they're doing this. They're saying, "Can I try a different size?" And the customer is having to, ask for that. And then when they get done, there's like, "Okay, this is the size that I want," and they're saying, "Well, yeah, we don't have that, and we couldn't swap it. So you're just going to need to go in. You're going to need to do an online exchange. When they have one, they'll send you that one, and you'll have to send your old one in." And that is just not
Yeah.
that old school Apple, right?
Right.
So
Right. So the last part of this is you know I learned in customer service. Remember we talked about customer service being a skill. This is just one of those things that you learn. You would think they would have whole seminars at Apple about customer service because they're so customer centric in their stores and stuff. But already frustrated about my watch and the money that I paid for Apple Care and all of that. I'm leaving, getting up to leave, and she's like, "Okay, well you have a you enjoy the rest of your day or something like that," which really just I'm like, oh. So on the way out, I tell the young lady in the front, I'm like, just cancel that Vision OS, because I'm like, I forgot this part too. I'm telling the lady, I'm like, it's kind of my fault that I allow companies to treat me like this. I don't allow any company to mistreat me, and I continue to bring them money. Right? I told her I'm just trading in this iPad. It's spotless. I get Apple Care on all this. So not only do I buy the devices right out, I give y'all extra money for this coverage. So I'm trading in this iPad to prepare to buy the new iPad that y'all come out with in a couple of weeks. And here you are telling me, basically, Apple doesn't care about you. They just like you a little bit. And more, yeah, it's Apple cares. More like Apple likes. But so on the way out, I just told the lady, I'm like, hey, just cancel that Vision Pro. I'm not even going to consider another Apple device right now. As much as I wanted to test it out and see it, I was ready to go. I was just frustrated. So yeah, that was my experience, and that's been my experience. So again, this is not so much of because if I would have smashed my watch again, if the screen was smashed or it just, I'm pretty sure I would have walked out with a watch. Same with the phone. If my wife's phone was smashed into 50 pieces, they would have replaced it. But I thought there was a little more to that than going
Yeah.
in with trash and getting it replaced. So the same with my iPad. If the iPad was basically bent in half, uh, I would have been walking out of the store with a brand new iPad, but or whatever it is that I was getting replaced because I actually don't get it on my iPad. But yeah, pretty frustrating dealing with AppleCare. So just be conscious of one, like we said before, the risk of your phone or your device being damaged. If it's at high risk, then I would still say get AppleCare, but I'm never getting it on my watch again. Probably
Yeah.
not the phone. This test was even caseless. This phone is still in really good condition, so I probably would never do it on the phone again. So AppleCare Plus is probably going to be a no go for me in the future.
Yeah. Understood.
All right, well, that was my rant. I know it went a little long, and I know I've repeated a lot of stuff, but yeah, pretty frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, right? And
Yeah,
we stay in the Apple's ecosystem because the good experiences are so good.
yeah,
Unfortunately, they're like every other company where nothing's going to be perfect, right? And um, you know, what works for you. So, thanks for sticking with us, everyone. Hopefully,
yeah,
Jason will be back in a week with the watch back on his wrist. Otherwise, we might talk about it again.
yeah. We may. I'm going to see what the status is. They sent me a link where I can track it, so I'll see what the
Cool.
status is. But I doubt it's even left the store.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a
All
good
right.
one.